to call the meeting to order. Rebecca, will you please call the roll?
Gandy.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Thank you. Council, are there any changes to the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of the August 8th, 2022 council meeting. Approval of the August 19th, 2022 payroll in the amount of $130,728.68. Resolution approving funds transfers. Acceptance of the Arbor Committee minutes. Acceptance of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee minutes. Acceptance of Library Board minutes. Acceptance of the Beautification Commission minutes. Approval of total claims in the amount of $583,020.61. We had two claims above $75,000. One to Jefferson County Kids in the amount of $225,495.21. That is a CDBG pass-through grant. And LL Pelling Company of $90,586.80, which for seal coating.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Moved by Gandy,
Second.
second by Toohill. Any discussion?
I have a few observations to make.
Okay.
So the library board minutes in their agenda said they were going to go into closed session, but their minutes did not reflect a motion to go into closed session nor any action taken. I find that curious. And then the Beautification Commission did not have a quorum at their meeting, and the person who submitted the minutes did not attend the meeting, according to the minutes. So what I'm suggesting here is that I think our committees need some training, and I would like to suggest that we provide that training in October when we do our work session.
Okay, and Aaron, can you check on those? See if that's all accurate, his observation?
Yep. And then I'm wondering where all the minutes are being stored. So are they sitting in someone's desk somewhere, or are they here at City Hall? Did you receive any recording of the closed session for library?
No.
Okay. The Jefferson County Kids Inc. check, that's going to be reimbursed by the state, right, Aaron?
Correct.
So that's not money coming out of our pocket, it's just pass-through money.
Correct.
All the other claim items I've looked at, and I would recommend approval.
Second.
I think we already had a first and second.
I'm just recommending approval that we pay the claims. I didn't see anything unusual there.
Is there any other discussion or questions? No, please call the roll.
Gandy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes, I have to abstain from the approval of the minutes for August 8th. I was absent.
All right. We will move on to public forum and appearances. First off is Dave Neff with the Carnegie Historical Museum quarterly report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, administrators, Mr. Attorney. You know some of these things already. Can you sit in on some of these? And Chief, thanks for keeping track of us here.
Thank you, sir.
We're in this opportunity to share with you glad tidings of great joy, even though it's not December yet. But our museum was able to host the Chamber of Commerce Business After Hours on Thursday, the 21st of July. And the response was overwhelming. We had over close to 200 participants, including board and volunteers. We're told that by the Chamber that Business After Hours has 24 to 36 people attend these meetings, and we had the 200. So we were doorbusters from there, and it made us very, very proud. And also the pork producers were quite pleased because they ran out of food. So it worked out very, very well for us on that. First Fridays are really ramping up for us. We had the vision for Heritage Farms, 150 years in the same family, and we've been into our third month now with the Ryan DeVore family. We do a video for a half hour prior to, and then we open the museum for the people to come in, and they're able to view a special cabinet. If you haven't had a chance to come over, each month a new family has a new cabinet. We're booked out through September of February this year with the 150-year farms. The people that are knocking on our door are the 100-year farms, Century Farms. We're worked out to September of 2023 already, people. They're coming to us. They want to tell their story, and we think it's pretty neat on that. Jake has been working very closely with the people on this, and we have Mary Fish and her family. They're going to come in a week early because they will not be here on the first Friday to kick it off to do that. Have you ever heard of ghost towns? Towns that used to be Beckwith? Is that a name you know? Well, you know because you've been here, well, ever since, never mind.
Too long.
We won't go back that far. But when she was in fourth grade, she was on a trampoline and I was the teacher at that time. Anyway, we've hung out for a while. So anyway, ghost towns and townships. If you go along the Burlington Northern Route, you will find little places that used to be there. And so we're highlighting by townships who lived there and what was in that township and where are the ghost towns. And so those Kathy Tolliner enhances. As you are aware, and Melanie is aware, we are working with Autobahn contractors from Illinois. The southwest corner of our building continues to settle. And as we did that business after hours, we kicked off, and everybody that walked out got an opportunity to say, here's a form they can fill out and make a donation. I do not have a report yet on that, but we are in that position on that. Therese Kaminsky hosted a Village Life program and also a basket class. Mark Schaefer is working with the Llewellyn House in Mount Pleasant. And they have a great Underground Railroad program. They're going to host their next meeting here in Fairfield. Those of you remember, from last year, we had a kickoff with Christmas tree orders, and those are set for this year again, so that we will have Christmas at the Carnegie around the east and the south side. Lunch and learn sessions, Kathy Tolliner has come up with this idea, and the first one was about pharmacy, third generation, Tom Vanderlinden, Summit Pharmacy, he's from Pella, and if you want to come to the next one, Mahedable Woods, I think you're going to talk about Mahedable on that, Terry? Okay, good. You saw in the paper, we had the first compote on the treasure hunt was found, and the people get a party and they fill it with ice cream, the compote, so we're going to have a good one. I know some people really like numbers, so I'm going to wrap up with numbers. There will not be a pop quiz on this, so you don't have to worry about that, Martha. You can read it and check it out. One day, Jake Schmidt provided 12 tours in one day. Wow. 13 small groups have used the museum in the meeting room. They say, we'd like to meet there. Can we sit down? Can we use your facility? Our average number of visitors has risen to 300 per month, folks. So that might be skewed a little bit with the 200 that we had the 1 month, but over the basis, we're doing that. 4 class reunions have said, we want to come and have tours. The neatest thing that I feel is we have a certain number on our board, but volunteers, 15 new volunteers, and we're up to 39 now, people that want to help us. So good things are happening. We thank you for your support, and we invite you anytime you want to come, and Jake or one of us would be more than happy to tour you. Thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Great news on the volunteers. Okay, next up, Terry Baker. Convention and Visitors Bureau's annual report.
Thank you, Counsel. You have in front of you our annual report with a lot of the numbers that should be of interest to you. One of the things I'm going to do tonight is also give you a more insider look at some of the marketing that we're doing, because we don't target you, so you may not have seen it. It all goes out of town. Really, the Convention and Visitors Bureau really plays 3 roles. The first role is that of a destination marketing organization, where we are doing that outreach to bring people into the community. But we're also a destination experience organization where we curate an experience for the visitor. And finally, we have a destination leadership role in which we are taking that Fairfield image and the Fairfield brand and always refining that messaging and putting that out into whoever might want to listen. So if you want to look at these screens, you'll get to see some of the things we've been doing. Obviously, the first thing here is what I think is probably one of our biggest wins this year was our new visitor's guide. We changed this up to be more like a travel magazine. And we actually won an award from the Iowa Tourism Office, which is an award that's given to us by our peers. So that was really an honor to receive. All right, we're going to see if this works. It works. This one, I'm not going to play the videos. This does have the videos in here, but we contracted with McDaniels Marketing out of Illinois to do 3 promotional videos. One is an overall video about Fairfield, another one's about the artists in the community, and the other one's about food. So we have those 3-minute videos that we're using in different places for different pieces of marketing. Some of our advertising, last year we started a campaign called Find Yourself in Fairfield. This was a very successful campaign, lots of different imagery that we would use and target different markets. We also tried to interject some humor with our Shop and Be Merry event where we tried to just make people stop their scroll to look at something interesting and different. We also placed an ad in USA Today in their Midwest travel guide, and we have the image on the right this is a flyer that we send out to group tours to entice them to come to Fairfield. We also work with the Iowa Tourism Office. In 2021, in the summer, we did a family road trip promotion with them that brought in about 3,000 different leads that we were able to follow up on, kind of promoting Fairfield as a place for families. Another campaign that we did is Loved by Locals. That is still an active campaign. You might see stickers up on some of the businesses. And we do some blogging and some different things around that. And we also this year had an Eat, Play, Win passport, which was designed to get people to move around to the different shops and restaurants in order to win prizes. That promotion has been retired and will be reinvented into something new coming up. We also tried Google display ads this year, which was very interesting. It really helped us get a new market, and these are some examples of some of the ads that we put out. We have a social presence, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as we are on TikTok, and Pinterest. And we also have over 5,000 images on our user-generated image site on our website. This is where people, just anyone who would take a picture of something they're doing in Fairfield, they would tag it with the hashtag Fairfield, Iowa, or Fairfield Vibe, and then we have a software that goes in and helps us to post that on the website. So it gives that real connection to real people, not just sort of a marketing message all the time. We did something new this year as well. We did an ad, a full-page ad in Travel, Taste, and Tour magazine, and then also had a write-up about Fairfield. That is currently on the shelves. So if you have a Barnes & Noble handy, you can go purchase one, or you can purchase online. And coming out in September, this will be in Food and Travel magazine. We did this as a co-op, and we featured 4 businesses that bought in to reduce the cost of the ad for us, and did a 2-page spread as well as an article. And there will also be lots of online and video and all kinds of things happening associated with that. So. We also contracted with a travel blogger. She came to town with her family and still is putting out some content. We were able to leverage that, and we use that quite a bit. She is from Ohio, and she has a very large audience, so that gets a lot of eyes on it. And the Iowa Gallivant, who is from Iowa City, but he loves to come down here and eat. He is a food blogger, and so we have him come down every so often, and he had a rather expressive TikTok that has reached all kinds of numbers and views, so it's been great. We also did 28 blogs this year on our own website, and you can see I posted up here the 2 highest views that we were getting for blogs. These are really proving to be a great avenue to get people interested in what's happening in Fairfield, what's happened in Fairfield, what you could possibly do. It receives a lot of interest from locals as well. A lot of people say to me, I didn't know I could do that here. So that's really great. We really look at all the local population as being our ambassadors. We know that a large part of our visitation is people visiting friends and family. So they need to know, like, what can people do other than saying there's nothing to do in Fairfield. We're going to dispel that myth. Last year, for the first time also, we did a holiday event brochure where we gathered as many events as we could possibly find to get in a brochure. And then this went around to communities within a 50-mile radius of Fairfield to let them know what was happening for the holidays here. We will be repeating this promotion again. Our Shop and Be Merry event is something we do every year. We engage about 15 of the shops and restaurants, and then we do, most of the marketing is done out of town in order to get people to come in from about a 50-mile radius. Christmas at the Barns was a new event we did in collaboration with Mazda and Barnes. Very well attended, very popular, just a nice family-friendly event. This was a free event for people to come to, but we did sell cookies and cider and things like that to defray some of the costs. And we had a fabulous Santa, and people are looking forward to doing that again. And Restaurant Week. Restaurant Week is probably going to get a makeover, but we do have a lot of success with that, so we'll be doing that again. And finally, this year we did, I know this is really kind of this next fiscal year, but we did a family fun road trip. This was a collaboration with 6 organizations in town where, and actually was a brainchild of Brittany Tiller from the Jefferson County Conservation. And we really tried to do something that would show people could come for several days as a family, and there would be all these fun and free things for people to do in the community. So that's just a little overview. I'm willing to entertain any questions you might have on the report. Yes.
Yes, Terry, did you get any measured results from the USA Today advertisement?
We have not gotten those yet.
And can you speak a little bit more about the results you may have received from your social media, the social media outreach?
Yes. What would you like to know?
Well, it says there 5.5, for example, you said in the report 5.5 thousand social media followers. Does that includes TikTok, Facebook?
That includes
Instagram?
mostly Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. Is there a way that one can measure followers and translate it, say, into dollars to the community, anything like that?
No, I don't think so. A lot of our, not a lot, but some of our followers are definitely locals, so that obviously doesn't translate into a visitor, for example. But what this does is show our influence on social media. And we are up like 1,200 followers from last year. So that's one of my goals, is to keep increasing this number so that we have more reach and more influence.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other social media that seems to be growing faster than the others? Facebook
is really probably our most used platform. Facebook's also changing, so I'm not sure where that's going to land us with things, but we're always looking at that in terms of, okay, do we need to adjust? Do we need to try a different platform? I want to keep Instagram alive. Instagram's also changing, so we're kind of having to adjust what we're doing and marketing on those platforms.
Thank you.
Terry, quick question, and this is kind of a hard one to answer, but you know, with us being down one hotel,
yes,
are you going to see, do you think, a significant decrease? I mean, I know that's been down for a while anyway. So how do you think our revenues are going to be this next year? Got any wild predictions?
You know, it's always hard to predict. I know that the hotels are telling me that they're full. So that's good from that standpoint. I know that we're losing a lot of traffic because people can't book here. So I will have to say that this year we are down from last year, but the whole state is down from last year. So we're not trending anything differently from that. So we're sort of holding our own in terms of the state averages. But I do have a feeling that it'll be a little bit lower.
Okay.
Kind of going off of that, do you notice like shorter visits that people are doing? Because you have, okay.
Yes, definitely less overnights. So And I can run some comparison numbers, but, I think in the past I've seen where there's been more like an average of 2 night stays, and now I'm seeing more an average of 1.3 night stays, right? So it's definitely changing.
Terry,
Yeah.
what is a PPP loan?
That's the loans that they were giving out for COVID to businesses.
Oh, that's not a loan, it's a gift.
It is, yes. I was instructed to put it on this way, but it's,
Can you
yeah.
elaborate on the county's contribution? That's
Yes.
supplied as 20%, is that cash or is that in kind or?
No, they give us a donation every year. Yeah, a cash donation, yeah.
Great. Any other questions? No? Thank you, Terry.
All right, thank
For
you.
your hard
Thank you.
work, and look forward to this next year. Next is Cindy Cost. She's got a proposal on our policy. So if you'll speak into the microphone, please. And you have, yeah,
I just feel so short.
we can see you.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see you. And if you'll keep your comments to 3 minutes, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Well, this is in light of having the property Cornerstone on 107 Hempstead and all that case. I'm not here about that case because I don't have proof that my weeds were as bad as Joe says. But at the same token, Joe doesn't have proof either. And so I'm proposing that when the city sends out someone to mow, that they take 2 pictures, a couple of pictures before they start, from a big view so that, people like me, they could show me, because otherwise I feel swindled. So I would like to be a happy citizen. So I'm not gonna fight for whatever. I don't have proof. Joe doesn't either. Let's just make this proposal easier for everyone and have more happier citizens.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments on that? Okay. Aaron, I guess that's something you can talk with the street department about. So,
How
to me,
will
it seems like a reasonable request.
Okay. And how will we know that this passes and?
Well, it's not an action of the council. It'll be a policy that we implement to work on with our just to be our nuisance program.
Okay.
Aaron, don't they send a letter out before they mow?
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
How many days between mowing and the letter?
Normally, it's
10 days.
a week or more.
10 days.
It might be
10
10
days.
I
days.
think
So
it's 10 days.
So we can follow up with you. I can follow up with you.
That'd be
Okay.
great. Thank you so much.
Okay, next is Ed Noyes. And Ed, again, if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes, because we do have our city attorney who wants to comment as well regarding this.
I timed it. Thank you. So I want to thank you for your time and attention this evening. I understand that you've been given a copy of the proposed purchase agreement that allows for the sale of the DOT property for $15,000 more than the city paid for this property. This offer to purchase the DOT property from the city offers many advantages. These include allowing the intrinsic value to be preserved and utilized in accordance with the most important stated goals of the city's master plan. This includes repurposing existing properties to meet the needs of the community rather than tearing them down. In this case, providing much-needed senior housing and an excellent location downtown for a daycare facility. It will obviously provide the city with long-term additional property tax revenues that will be lost. It will further allow the city to pursue an option that was unfortunately not considered due to apparent relied upon misrepresentations. This inaccurate information was the assertion that buried fiber optic cables could not be used so that they could build the fire station on the existing lot. This misinformation was relied upon city officials to authorize the purchase of this DOT property. Also problematical was that the task force assigned to determine the best location for the fire station was not given an option to consider the existing fire station location and to simply build onto that land. If that was allowed to be considered, the desired new safety features, which we all want, could be integrated into the newly constructed bays to the north of the existing 3 bays, saving an estimated $3 to $4 million of taxpayer money. I believe that if the citizens of our community were fully informed and given an option that allowed for the historical preservation of the existing fire station to continue to be used as a fire station and not as a storage unit, along with the cost savings and other advantages, they would prefer that result. Finally, a review of the offer made brings into play the preservation of the municipal parking lot just west of the Chamber of Commerce as a municipal parking lot. And I am open to discussing with the city how that can be accomplished. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ed. John?
Yeah, I am troubled partly because you spoke to us about this whole idea before, Ed, and the council did not agree with you then, and I don't think anybody on the council has come around since then, but...
I was cut off, John, and this offer is for $50,000 more.
Than what you offered back then.
That's exactly correct.
Which, I guess the thing is that the council can't consider it tonight because the property hasn't been determined to be something that the city wants to dispose of. There's a section in the code 364.7 that says they can only consider that after they've either passed a motion, a resolution, or an ordinance to accomplish that. Other than that, there's been a vote which was about 3-1 in favor of building a new fire station at that site. So I don't know if you're attempting a backdoor referendum or if there's something else going on here that we missed, but we had a group of competent task force people report on this, and you raised points that were not argued to the task force that I'm aware of.
The problem was, John, the existing fire station was not one of the 4 locations that was given as an option for the task force. I found that out from former Ed Malloy. And I believe the reason they weren't given it was the same reason why the city was authorized to purchase the DOT property.
I beg to differ with that statement because I sat on that task force, and the task force, advised the city staff not to spend the time looking into it because of the problems with the building. So we did consider it, and we specifically told city staff that was not an option we as a task force wanted to consider.
I was given that by Mr. Ed Malloy, which I trusted when he told me, and it was at one of the task force meetings that were here.
Yeah, I was.
And I have proof that the city officials were told improperly that the fiber optic cables could not be removed. I have it in my possession. So
that's not accurate either.
And I don't know if that was a deciding factor why we didn't choose it either. So.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you honestly, it was not to me at all. Didn't. So there were 4 locations that were considered, and one of them was not the fire station.
There were drawings at one point, because I saw them.
There were.
Of what that would look like if it were at the current fire station.
And when was that done?
In front of the task force. Was
that done prior to the purchase of the DOT property?
More importantly, are you aware of any action taken by the council to dispose of the property?
What do you
To
mean
date?
dispose of it?
To divest ourselves of it?
I'm trying to avert a disaster.
To divest ourselves of the DOT property that we purchased.
I feel I have a duty as a citizen.
I ask a very specific question. Are you aware?
I'm fulfilling my duty, okay?
Are you aware of any communication or action by the council to divest ourselves of the DOT property?
I was aware that when the city had tried to buy the building, and I spoke with city officials about it, I spoke with Scott Vaughn, I spoke with the mayor, and I was told exactly what was going on and why the city bid for the property. It was based on a misunderstanding.
I don't think we can be baited into discussing this because
it's not a debate. I can prove it.
Well,
we can't even talk about this unless there's been a resolution passed, so this is a moot point.
Right.
The city council has made
I don't know how else to do this other than come forward and make an offer, which is what I did.
You can't make an offer because we haven't made a motion or a resolution to divest ourselves of the property.
I think we have a duty to our citizens. We all do. think
That's
we all have
fine.
a
So
duty.
property committee, is this something that you wish to take up to committee? Yeah. So, Paul, you're chair of that?
No, I don't have an interest in it.
Any other members on the committee wish to take this up? Martha?
I think,
Or Elizabeth?
I think the issue has been, totally covered, and I think the decisions were made, and I think we need to move on.
That needs to go back to Ed.
Okay.
It's been over 2 years since the city bought this property. How much longer are we going to wait?
So,
At least
Ed?
another year, probably. It's going to take that long for construction, but there isn't one person out of 7 full council here tonight that has ever said they want to divest of this property. So it's not ripe for what you want to offer them. It can go to the property committee, but I think they'll give you the same
We
result.
were also told to be bidding by May, so we know what the cost of the new building would be. It's now August. Have they came in?
Well, can I ask the city attorney?
May of 2023.
Yeah.
The city engineer to give us an update on the status of the new building? Like, how far along are we on this project? What have we done besides purchase the property?
Oh, sure.
Well, I know, but we need to.
So we are getting close to 30% design review. We've had meetings with the fire department regarding uses of specific areas, so we're working on finalizing the floor plan. I've registered the project with Alliance Commercial, I left my notes back there, but their commercial rebate program, and so they monitor the plans throughout design to help us maximize rebates. Regarding the existing buildings, I actually toured the buildings today with 2 nonprofits regarding a few of the items that we intended to salvage from the beginning. So when you guys say that you're not interested in divesting of the property, you're meaning the land.
The land.
You guys are interested in divesting of some of the physical assets. And so we'll be bringing those to the council for approval as we make those lists. But I actually toured today with those. We'll be looking at bidding out the asbestos and hazardous material removal in the next couple months. I don't have an exact date because I'm behind on a lot of things. Klinger is going to help with that as well. We'll get that done before we do the demo and bidding. I honestly don't remember if I said May, but it'll be early next year before we. Whether it's May or January, I can't tell you at this point. But
The demolition you mean?
I'm sorry, the bidding of the
New building.
The new building. But the demo will be, I would like to see the buildings down before we get a hard frost so that the frost can help settle some of the ground. However, I realize that the 1st of November is like 2 months away, and like I said, we're a little behind on that one.
Have we had a real offer about demolition of the west building?
We haven't put it out.
We haven't put it out to bid yet.
Well, but you mentioned to me the other day that a certain group was interested in demoing it in exchange for the wood.
The east building.
The east building.
Oh, I'm sorry, the east building.
Yeah, so what we would do is we would first remove the asbestos and hazardous materials, and then we would bid out the removal of the east building because we don't have really a desire for the west building, and the west building could be done in-house once the hazardous materials are removed.
Can I ask you a question? I asked you when you were going to decide if you were going to destroy the DOT, and you said, once we get the bids, we'll make a decision. That's what you told me. Now what I'm hearing is you're going to destroy the buildings before you get the bids. That's what I'm hearing.
Yep, and that was discussed during the meetings, and I thought it was a great idea at the time. And then as we talked through the details with the architect, they were concerned about getting the buildings down and delaying the schedule and getting it all out of there, the unknowns and all of that stuff. And so they made a recommendation to get them down sooner rather than later, and we took that to, was it public safety? And then to the council, and they wanted us to proceed with demolition.
That was already been voted on, to proceed with
Right.
demolition.
The city resolution was for $5 million. That's what the public approved.
Wasn't it?
It was $5 million.
The referendum?
Okay,
The
I'm sorry.
$5 million.
Sorry.
What if it comes in at $10 million? And the referendum said nothing about location, nothing about location. It was only that we were authorized to spend up to $5 million. Now we're going to tear it down. We don't know what the bids are going to be. It could be an extremely unwise decision. I'm sorry.
We appreciate that, Ed. I understand you don't agree with it. However, the location of that property is probably more valuable to the city because of the fire station than any of the arguments that you've presented.
Unless you can build at the existing station. That's what I just
We
said.
can't, because the size of the building that we need needs to have more space. There is not enough space. Now, we can move the fiber optic lines in the alley. We've never said you can't. It's just cost prohibitive to do that.
No, you said you couldn't.
That's not what I said.
Well,
So
That's not argument.
it's a moot point to argue about it.
you can't
So,
just leave the 3 bays and build onto the north side. Is that what you're telling me?
we don't have enough space to make it as functional as what we could on the DOT property. Correct.
And I believe, was
more
there
than
not an
twice the size
estimate
already.
of what that would cost to build there?
That was early on presented to the committee.
Yeah, and-
it, in many fashions, not only was it size prohibitive, it was cost prohibitive. I mean,
It's not like we were going to save $3 million.
Makes no
Ed.
sense. You're
We
saving
wouldn't
3
save
bays.
$3 million.
You're saving 3 bays. You don't need to build
We
6.
can't save $3
We
million
can't save.
because we have to do
Yeah.
we have to do structural improvements to that building to make it to code.
And those bays aren't usable for the size of trucks we have now anyway.
The new ones would be. The new ones would be.
Well, we would be saving 3.
Anyway, I don't know how many times I've been here, written letters. I feel like I was ignored. I was disrespected the last meeting. I wouldn't even be here today if I would have had 1 more minute to say what I needed to say. I wasn't, and I expect more respect as a citizen. That's what I expect.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay?
Okay. Fairfield Country Club, they have a fireworks display request. Is anybody here from that?
They did this last year. They have a fireworks display, and I forget what their event is. They're just
This is
It's
their
130th
100th anniversary.
130th.
130th anniversary.
Anniversary.
They do have, I thought they had one every year, but.
But at
4th of July, they do.
Oh, 4th of July.
This is a different.
So this is a little bit different. They probably do something similar to what they're doing.
Yeah.
They normally do, but it's, yeah.
It's like the oldest.
Has the fire chief signed off on this?
It's the oldest continuous country club west of the Mississippi. in the
So they
United
claim.
States.
It's going to be on Saturday evening, and
But
as I say, it
Fire chief is going to be there,
it's
someone's
not-
going to be there?
They've got insurance, they've got to provide all of that in order to do that, yes.
So they have a 20-minute maximum display. So again, just so people know that live over there, there will be fireworks that night, assuming you approve.
Motion to approve.
I would
Second.
approve, yes.
Moved by Anderson. Who seconded over there? Second by Rasmussen.
Don't you have a conflict of interest, Tom?
Flip a point.
Take care.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that was passed unanimously. Thank you. We will move on to our next action item. Consideration to submit Rural Housing Assessment Grant Program application to Iowa Economic Development Authority. And Josh is coming to the podium, so he's going to obviously tell us about this.
Council, you just did receive possibly a copy late this afternoon. I apologize. I do have printed copies for you here. I can hand out if you'd like.
I didn't
Would you
get
please-
the email, so they don't have it.
We don't have it.
Okay.
Thank
It's
you.
on me, so.
Appreciate it.
429. Or that guy will get you one of his.
It's okay. I got it. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have one somehow.
Thank you, Rebecca.
It's attached to the agenda.
Thank you.
Print it out.
So it's quite small. I apologize. This is the only way it would print. So what's in front of you is a grant application with to Iowa Economic Development Authority. It is a competitive grant where the city could be awarded up $10,000. The grant is for completing the Rural Housing Readiness Assessment Program, the housing study that we'll be going through. And the awarded funds, if we are awarded, could be used towards implementation of any action plan that comes out of that study. The city is the official applicant. As part of the partnership, FEDA has agreed to write the grant for the city and put in the time. But the city is the official applicant. So in the first part, page 1, you will see Mayor Boyer and Aaron Quaker are the official representatives. But FEDA is mentioned as the project contact, again, providing that assistance of time to the city staff. So we are offering to be the in-between between the city and IEDA if we are awarded this grant. I should mention there is only 10 awards made, so the application is due on September 1st. So we do have a little bit of time to refine this. There is one section I still need to get clarification on, and I'll mention that at the end. The position that I've put in the narrative of why we are ready to go through this process and why we should be considered for this grant is the position of the loss of workforce not only to Fairfield, but to the state of Iowa with our shortage of workforce housing. So we are losing qualified talent in our companies because we do not have quality and affordable workforce housing. So that is the case that I made throughout here. And really what the state is looking for is that we are committed. They want to award funds to communities that are going to move forward. There's a couple of bonus points if you're a town under 5,000 people. We are not in that category, of course, but I do think we have a good case, and I have been in contact with multiple leaders, so I'm optimistic. But again, these dollars would be seed funding for implementation of any action plan that comes out. Another case that I made was that 40% of our housing stock in Fairfield was built before 1930. And I did make the case that it continues to degrade. Obviously, we've had some new developments. We do have some great homeowners and some great landlords, but we also have a substantial concern, I think, a consensus about that we have some properties going in the other direction. So out of this program, hopefully we can, I think we'll be talking about code a lot, which I think will support residential code specifically. Also talked about incentives. I think that's something we can look at that comes out of the study.
Josh, did you say 40% built before 1930?
Yes, and that information came out of our comp plan, the 2020 Forever Plan.
Yeah, I didn't remember that statistic.
The other surge we saw was between the late 70s and the early 90s, which possibly could be aligned with MIU. One question that they have in the application in here, and it is vague and it is acceptable, is what will you use the funds towards if we award? Our answer, and it's acceptable, is we don't know. We don't have a specific project that it will be awarded to. The response I put in here is we are waiting for the action plan to come out of the task force. So there will be an actionable plan, and that is an acceptable response in here. What they are looking for is a commitment that we will spend the funds by June 30th, 2024. So they're looking for communities who are going to play by the rules and do the work. And I think we've shown that through multiple partnership programs. Again, it is competitive, so I'm optimistic, but I think it's worth the time. The last section is where I'm going to spend a little time on the phone tomorrow. It's the minority impact statement section. It's a commitment to, of course, that we will not adopt any programs or policies as a city that will be discriminatory towards any particular group or class. Of course, I would, our position is that we won't do that, but there's some semantics here in the questioning. I just want to get clarification that I'm answering it appropriately and not, again, it was asking the question, I just want to get clarification.
We do have USDA funds, and I also think with CDGB grants, we're required to follow those, I forget the term, but there's agreements in those that require us to fair housing. Fair housing for all those things. So
of course, we're going to do the right thing. There were some yes and no questions, and they seem simple, but I was lacking just a little confidence on the semantics. So that is the last page, double-sided page. There may be some changed answers there, and I will answer appropriately that we will be in compliance with all laws and, of course, do the right thing. I've also added a narrative that we are a very diverse community, and we have pride in that diversity here, so we're going to support that.
So the required match is 50 cents on the dollar?
The way they ask you to lay out here is as a $15,000 project, and they're asking for a $5,000 cash match, which you have committed that $5,000, and that goes specifically to Iowa State University. And the other $10,000 is for project implementation, so I think that would be 33 cents on the dollar. If I'm doing the math right.
I meant 50 cents on the dollar given. We have to give 50 cents for every dollar
Yes.
they give us.
Yes.
Is that the maximum you can give?
That we can give?
Well,
Only the maximum we can get.
On these grants, you can have a minimum required match, or you can exceed that match if you like.
Yes.
And, when I was doing grant reviews, people who exceeded the match were more favorably looked upon. I was just wondering if that's the case here.
Thank you for the clarification. That is something I could take back to my board, and I'd be comfortable. We just had a board meeting today. And you will see a commitment from PETA. I just didn't have that in writing.
I'm just pointing out that it might strengthen the application.
Absolutely. I will work on that between now and September 1st, and I will add to that. So if you have any questions?
Who decides? Who makes the decision as to who gets the grant money?
So at last, for the communities?
Yes.
Iowa Economic Development Authority.
Okay. Who's in the Iowa Economic Development Authority?
They have different committees for different programs, so I'm not aware of. I can ask for the employees that serve on this particular committee.
Did we have the director of the Iowa Economic Development Authority speak at the child care?
Yes.
Who is that?
Director Debbie Durham. This community has the council, our office, and this community, especially our employers, have a great relationship with her. She has great respect for the progress Fairfield has made and our commitment to Iowa progress, so we can reach out to Director Durham and make a plug if that's what you're...
I just wanted to know how that was the decision process, but...
So there is about a 40-minute video on the scoring process. I didn't bore you with that, but essentially I hope I did that in the grant writing for you. There is one extra section. I will have time. There's 5 extra points you can get if you were awarded and first designated as a Great Places community, which we have been, and we've been redesignated, and if you've been awarded a grant. I did reach out to a contact, and the city of Fairfield was awarded in 2006. There was some streetscape work done with those grant funds, so I may plug that in here if it does meet the guidelines, and it may get us an extra 5 points on the application due to that previous award.
So the application is to be submitted by September 1st?
Correct.
What's the timeline in terms of a decision?
They will notify us by September 30th, and I intend by September 30th. Whether we get this or not, the council has decided we are moving forward with the housing study process anyway. We may even start scheduling those meetings starting October 1st. We are technically not allowed to start prior to that. That would disqualify us for this grant.
Technically not allowed to start what?
The sessions, the work sessions.
I see.
Alrighty, any other questions?
Do you know how many applications are submitted?
I do not. I do know they sent out a reminder email last week urging people to apply, so that was a good sign. Or encouraging communities to apply. I took that as a good sign that maybe they didn't receive a lot, but that was the way I interpreted it.
Sure.
Again, there's 10 awards made at $10,000 per community.
Okay.
I will say I've been bugging them a lot. We're about 3 months on this, so they're familiar.
You haven't crossed over to annoying them, have you?
Yeah. I ask a lot of questions and let them know that we're committed and that, it is in the city and both PETA's strategic plan that housing is a priority and it is moving to the top of our list. I also mentioned in here that, and I hope it's okay on behalf of the council, that we would like to be an example in the state of Iowa how a rural community can come together to solve this housing issue. I didn't make any claims underneath that about how, but I believe that all of you are on board with that, if we could be an example of how to make that happen, similar to some other public-private partnership projects in the last few years.
Absolutely. We've done that well in the past, but we can do it again.
Yeah, let's do it again. And my recommendation, or my suggestion to my peers, if sometimes I say my goal is to steal all of your employees, and I'll say that to my working peers in Mount Pleasant and Ottumwa and Washington, so get them to move here.
Great. So I would appreciate if somebody would make a motion to
I
approve
will
this.
make a motion to submit the Rural Housing Assessment Grant Program application to the IEDA.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Rasmussen. Any other discussions or questions for Josh? Okay, not, please call the roll.
Toohill?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Ham? Yes. Gandy?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Anderson? Yes.
Next resolution is consideration of tax abatement application for 808 North 12th Street from Josie Heilman. This is a Habitat for Humanity home. So, anybody have any questions or?
I'll make a motion to approve the tax abatement.
Moved by Flournoy, second by Anderson. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Anderson? Yes. Ham? Yes. Esti? Sorry. I'm sorry, Esti? Yes. Okay. I can't do too many things at once. Rasmussen?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Okay, next ordinance number 1211 is consideration to naming Diane Bauman Lane. This is a second reading. Before we vote on this or comment, I'll just open up to the public hearing to see if anybody wants to comment. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And council, any questions or discussion on this?
I would like to move this to the third and final reading.
Okay.
I would second it.
Yes. You don't mean tonight, though? Or do you mean?
I do mean tonight, I'd like to put it,
Were they going to be here for the third and final reading?
I think it was after we got it passed, they were going to come.
Okay.
I thought it was uncertain, but okay.
Motion to suspend the rules, skip the second reading.
And move it to the
Well, will they be here at the next meeting? Is that John?
I'm not sure. I had a conversation with Dr. Bauman 3 weeks ago, and he was hoping some family would be here at Labor Day. But what my thought is, if we pass this, maybe get a side-by-side frame and present them the ordinance, and that's probably about as much as we're going to be able to devote to this anyway. I think they're very happy with what we've done out there at the site, and something that memorializes this in the home. It'll mean as much to the kids as anybody, I think, Doc.
Are you saying
is happy with us.
You need this finalized before the next meeting?
If we do the third, I don't think it's going to hurt anything.
Tonight, you mean?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, then we can just do a presentation.
Yep. The official city photographer just made a motion that she'll take a picture.
Okay, so your motion is to suspend the rules.
Yes.
And move it to the third and final reading.
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second
And a
that.
second by Toohill. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Anderson? Yes. Toohill?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Ham? Yes. Rasmussen?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Okay, and then we will present something next.
Well, now you need to pass the reading.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to make that motion again, just for the third and final reading to approve it?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Flournoy. He beat you to it. Okay, any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Ham? Yes. Esti?
Yes.
Gandy?
Yes.
Okay, next ordinance is the consideration of increase to solid waste collection rates. I have that we are going from $8.56 to $8.78, I believe. Does that sound right?
Do we have the whole table on there for all?
Oh, yeah, we were going to put that table in there, that one.
Is it in there yet?
Yes.
You open it.
Yep.
It's in there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll open the public hearing on this. Anybody want to speak to this? If not, I'll close the public hearing, and you can see that table up there. So, yeah, so we are moving from $8.56 to $8.78 this year. In 2023, it'd be $9.09, and 2024, be $9.41. These are all starting on July 1. And that's a 3.5% increase, which is in the contract. Motion to approve?
I make a motion to move it from ordinance 1202, is that it?
1212.
Sorry? 1212 from the second to the third reading.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Rasmussen. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Ham. Yes. Gandy.
Yes.
Okay, then ordinance 1213. This has to do with single stream recycling collection rates. So this is going from $4.56 to $4.78, and then July 1, 2023 goes to $4.95, and then July 1, 2024 goes to $5.12. Is there anyone that wants to speak on this? I'll open the public hearing.
This one goes to 2024, but the last one only went to 2023? Or did they have both of them on there?
No, they're both there.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. So I make the motion to move it from 1213 from the second to the third
Okay,
reading.
so I'll close the public hearing first.
Oh, yes.
Now we got a motion on the table to approve this. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Toohill. Any other discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Ordinance number 1214, consideration of implementation inflation surcharge on solid waste. So this is an additional $1.55. And it will be reviewed, May of 2023. And I will open the public hearing. Does anybody want to speak to this? If not, I will close the public hearing, and council, is there a motion to approve this?
What's the ordinance number? I can't see it.
1214.
1214, so I make the motion to move ordinance 1214 from the second to the third reading.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Gandy. Any other discussion?
Just want to point out, if you go through the bills carefully, you'll see there are surcharges from other people and other businesses already being paid by the city, so this is not unusual.
And hopefully we can,
Hopefully we can
something will
reverse
happen
it
next year, we'll take it away. Or be less, will be our hope. Okay, so we have a first and second, so go ahead and call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Ham. Yes. Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 3 ordinances coming up, and I think Melanie probably will come up, right? And first off, I just want to say a thank you to Melanie and city staff for working on this for a really long time. It was complicated, and so I'm going to let Melanie talk about it first. We will, and then at each ordinance, I'll open a public hearing for any comment.
Okay. And I do have some examples if pictures are going to be better, but I'll just touch on a few highlights of each of them. So the first ordinance is consideration amendment to non-conforming lots and uses. And so change has been several years in the making. I think it kind of started actually when I think FIDA maybe did a vacant lot study, and we realized how many vacant lots there were actually in town. But it's something that I've seen since I started with the city, and that was a lot of unnecessary Board of Adjustment meetings for things that just really made sense, but that we couldn't approve at the staff level. And so if we jump right down to section 3, in my mind, a great example is the 2012-060 number 1. In any district where dwellings are permitted, a one-family dwelling may be constructed et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, regardless of the width of the buildable line and the minimum lot area. So we would have people, there would be a lot that was platted with utilities and all of that stuff, and they could meet setbacks, but because the lot was platted too small or smaller than what we now require, they'd have to go to Board of Adjustment. So, you know, this simplifies it. It says if you can meet all those other rules and it's a single family house, that's fine. And so really what the rest of this ordinance does is continue to take away some of those hurdles for, again, the stuff in my mind that makes sense. If you go to the second page under 2068-020, number 5, non-conforming structures, paragraph A. This, and we actually had a couple questions on Facebook about this, and so I wanted to bring it up. And so where a structural projection of a principal building is located closer to the lot line than allowed by this title, the non-conforming side of the structure may be increased provided the addition shall not extend beyond the furthest point. So if you have a shape with a lot of, or a house with a lot of corners and build outs, but the farthest most spot of the house, you can't go any farther past that. Unless, of course, you have a really big side yard or a really big front yard, which you would meet the setbacks anyway. So the question that was asked on Facebook, well, so can a rectangle house, or a perfectly rectangle house not build an addition? Well, no, if they meet the setbacks, otherwise they can build an addition. But this is for like those older houses that have a lot of jigs and jags and bay windows and all of those things. So it allows for some of those. I had used John's house as an example that, you know, he's got a bump out on the front, so he could add on to the front because the front part of his house is already closer to the street than what's allowed by code.
You could have an L-shaped house, you could have a U-shaped house, you could fill in space.
Fill in that, exactly.
Just don't go past.
And you know, where I say that I feel like this makes sense is you're not making the non-conformity any worse because you're not getting closer to anything. You're just allowing that unused space to be usable. And that section, the only other thing I wanted to clarify in this, again, some comments that were on Facebook, is there's 2 different measurements that are used in here. When we're talking about setbacks, if we say setbacks from the right-of-way, that's the property line, not the street. There are some cases that we're saying the edge of the traveled way, and so that has to do with visibility. So in some of these cases where we're calculating, we're giving some exceptions, we're trying to allow some of these smaller lots to be built on, we might be closer to that property line, but if there's a really big right-of-way, we might feel better about them being closer to the property line because you still have a good line of sight. So it's kind of a one or the other when we get into some of those that are really close to the property line. But most of the time we are talking about setbacks from the property line, not the street. And those were the only things I wanted to point out on that one. So if you want to proceed with that one,
Okay, so I will open the public hearing. Does anyone comment on this, on the non-conforming lots and uses? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Counsel, do you have questions? Any comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to move this from the first to the second reading.
Move proposed ordinance to second reading.
Second.
Okay, moved by Gandy, second by Flournoy. Any other discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Gandy.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ham. Yes. Anderson.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Esti. Yes. Toohill.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. And again, I would encourage the public, we've got 2 more readings after this, so make sure you go through these.
We are trying to simplify them as best we can for social media and putting them out there. Even though we don't take comments on Facebook, I won't respond on Facebook. I'll try and answer them here or call City Hall, and I can try and clarify those for people. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah.
So the second one is consideration amendment to zoning setbacks. Okay, sorry, it wasn't matching this one. And this ordinance is primarily clarifications as well as adding a few things that we've had come up in the time that I've been with the city. And so I will just point out a couple of the new things that we've added. So on the second page under 2012-030, item 4, we're specifying that accessory structures shall not be occupied as dwelling units. Your chickens can still live there, Katie, but not the way we define a dwelling unit means human occupancy. I know that the council may want to take this issue on in the future, but right now, I don't think we're quite there yet, so we're clarifying that, make it very clear. Temporary storage containers, item 5G, are becoming an issue. This might be like a storage pod or truck trailer that's being used for storage. So in a residential zone, it can only be there for a period not to exceed 90 days, and it needs to be part of a construction project. Thinking someone might have a pod to put their furniture in while they're remodeling their kitchen or something like that, but not to be used for general storage in a residential area. However, in business, manufacturing, conservation, and agriculture zones, they are allowed, but 6D says accessory buildings without a permanent foundation shall be placed on a gravel pad, mulch, concrete, or other manageable surface. So again, if you're using these shipping containers for storage, you need to have something under them to keep them from settling into the ground and growing up with trees. We do specify, though, that on 6G that there is no temporary storage containers in the central business district, again, except for a construction project. There's not much room for them in the central business district anywhere, anyway, but just to clarify that. Then when you go to the bottom of the third page on 2012-070, permitted obstructions, and what kind of continues on for the next several items is our current code uses the site triangle at corners, saying that 20 feet either side of the corner, and for lack of a better term, engineering nerd way of defining that site distance. I simplified it because I feel that there is issues with site distance not only at corners, but at driveways and alleys and sidewalks. So shifted it to a distance from the back of from the edge of the traveled way. Again, if you have a really wide right-of-way like we have in some areas, you're not going to see an impact because your right-of-way is already 15 feet wide. But if you're on, say, Madison, that has a very narrow right-of-way, this section might more likely apply to your private property because the right-of-way is so narrow. But again, we still have a problem with site distances, even though it's your private property. We have trouble seeing around those corners. And Weston's really been hitting the site distances hard lately and finding lots of areas that need to be trimmed. And so I think this will be good to add on. With the fences on page 4, 2012-085, we're separating the business or the residential from the other zones. Still a maximum of 6 feet in residential zone for fences, but allowing up to 10 feet in business, manufacturing, and the mixed use zones. That's what we've been doing for several years, because many of the businesses do want the taller security fences, and the code has never really been clear related to business and industrial fences anyway, so we're trying to clear that up. And then finally, a new one that I added, something that we ran into a couple years ago that worries me on, I don't know what page we're on at this point, but it is Under enclosures,
Page 5.
which would be 5D, and it says if the water's edge, so this would be referring to a pool, if the water's edge is 4 feet or more above grade, the access point shall be removed when non-actual use, meaning a ladder. But this is what concerns me is if the access point cannot be removed, an enclosure meeting the above requirements needs to be installed. So if someone builds, say, a wood staircase to their pool, we currently don't have anything that says that has to be gated. Because we say if pools are over 4 feet high, it doesn't have to have a gate around it. But we don't make any exceptions for if it has an easily accessible stairs. And so honestly, we had an applicant with that, and I recommended it, and I told them to talk to their insurance company, and then we just let it be because we didn't have anything to enforce it. But so those are I'll say the key changes on that section.
So standalone pools, when you buy them, they always have a removable ladder?
I think they're an extra because I don't even think they come with a ladder, but I don't know or anything.
So you're talking about when a person constructs something
Yes.
up against their pool and leave it there?
Yeah, a lot of people build like a deck, and those, no, that's fine. It's the stairs going up to the deck.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so I'll open the public hearing on this regarding the zoning setbacks. Mark?
Yeah,
Mark, you want to come up to the microphone? Sorry.
very short. I take it this will apply to like tiny houses, can't be in your yard.
Well, we don't have any ordinance for a tiny home right now.
Right,
We do have ordinances, though, about how many dwellings can be on a particular property.
Okay, so that covers tiny
Right.
houses. Okay. And what about RVs that people park on the property and live in?
You need to come closer to the mic.
What about RVs that people park on their property and live in?
Looks like Weston's going to come speak about that.
Yeah, I think our current code addresses it, but we just looked this up the other day, so let me see if Weston's memory is better than mine.
Not on which code it is, but
Okay.
you can't live in a trailer or a camper.
Come to the mic first, please.
I don't remember the exact code, but they cannot live in a camper on a piece of property here in town unless it's the trailer park or.
That's right. That's what we were reading. It is, they are allowed in a trailer park on a lot, but they're not allowed in any of the other residential districts.
So if you're living in a camper in a residential area, it's not allowed.
But if you're in a camper like for the weekend?
We won't catch you.
Yeah.
Well,
No, there is
Process takes a lot longer than a weekend.
Yeah, and there is exception. I mean, I actually think the code does reference it, but I think we were talking to other cities that in some of those cases, those property owners might call and say, hey, I'm having a family get together this weekend. I'm gonna have an RV in my front yard. I promise they'll be out of there by Tuesday, and we'll say, great, thanks for letting us know.
Yeah, you got a family member coming in over the weekend, that's not an issue.
Or even a week, we know how some of those work.
Yeah.
It's temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to be used.
Come Wednesday morning, though, we're knocking on your door.
So did you close the public hearing yet?
No, any other comments? Okay, so I'll close the public hearing. Now
I'll make a motion to move the amendment to zoning setbacks from the first to the second reading.
Okay.
Can I just make a note that we weren't talking about the zoning setbacks. This was the definitions and general provisions, I think.
Okay.
Right? Just so, for clarity's sake.
Okay.
We're on this one.
When was it?
Zoning setbacks.
So it wasn't zoning setbacks that we were discussing. We were discussing the next one.
Did we get them turned around? Is that what you're
Chapter
saying?
20, definitions and general provisions, right?
No, I was going through chapter 208, definitions.
And general provisions.
And general provisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we flipped
We
them.
just,
Oh,
Okay,
I
so we
did.
flipped them.
They're
Yep.
in opposite order on
Yes.
on the
on
The
there.
attachments are opposite on the second and third.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
On your
yeah.
agenda.
All right. You'll have to fail for lack of a second then.
That would be why mine say number 2 and number 3, because the attachments are number 2 and number 3.
Okay, so.
We know what we meant to do.
So I'll take a new motion for this one.
I'll make the motion to move the amendment to Chapter 20 definitions and general provisions from the first to the second reading.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, any other comment, discussion, questions? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Okay, now let's go to the zoning setbacks.
Yes, well, so this is an ordinance amending Chapter 20 of the Fairfield Municipal Code zoning. This is primarily cross-references to Chapter 2068 with one exception, one primary exception, and that is, I'm looking for it, through lots where there's a street on both sides. We don't have those well defined as far as what the setbacks are there. And one of the things we're trying to do is make sure that like corner lots aren't required to have 2 front yards. So we want to make sure that through lots aren't required to have 2 front yards. So we did add definitions related to through yards. The other thing you'll see a lot of changes in here is right now our code says that when 2 different zones are adjacent, the more restrictive setbacks shall apply. And there's always been a question as whether that is the sides that touch each other or they apply to the whole lot. So if you have a business lot and a residential lot, the business lot would have to meet the residential setbacks. The question has always been, is it that side, just that side that's touching it, or is it all 4 sides, or however many sides that business lot has? So we are clarifying it to say it is only the lot line that is touching the separate district. So if it's, again, going back to our business and our residential, that business would have to have a 10-yard side yard setback. And then the rest is, like I said, just referencing the different rear yard, front yard that was changed in 2068.
So I'll open the public hearing on this one, zoning setbacks. Does anybody want to speak to that, or? Okay, if not, I'll close the public hearing. Counsel?
Move proposed ordinance related to amending zoning setbacks to the second reading.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions? Discussion? I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is this where that 120 days is versus 90 days?
On the expiration of permits, yes. See, I knew I had something else to talk about.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it on my notes. Do you want to go ahead and talk?
Well, Melanie and I talked about several things today because just had a lot of questions. So our existing code says that if after construction begins, construction ceases for a period of 90 days, a zoning permit shall expire. Well, anyway, I guess there's a period there, so I didn't read the whole thing. It was 90 days, and apparently some other cities had 120 days. Personally, I just think 90 days should be enough time for someone to stop and start construction. I mean, that's 3 months. Now, she brought up the point of supply chain.
Right.
Which is an issue now, but in general, that's not an issue. So to me, if somebody's having an issue, they could come and say, but hopefully 2 years from now, that's no longer an issue, and I hate to see construction stop for that long. That's my personal opinion, so I'm just throwing it out there.
Weather, though, like if someone starts something and then, I don't know, inclement weather, it's just something to consider.
So
It's not referenced in multiple sections, so if you want to think about it, and then the next one, it can be a really easy amendment. It's like that section only is the only place that it's referenced.
Yeah. So. Okay, so with that, no other questions, we'll take a motion.
There is a motion.
No, I'm sorry.
Who do we have? Okay, Candy and Flournoy.
Gandy and
Flournoy, yep.
Okay. So if no other questions or comments, go ahead and call the roll.
Gandy.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Thank you. Last ordinance, consideration of amendment to pedestrian crosswalks.
Those last three, I was going to say, on the next two council meetings, I will not go over them in detail. I'll just come up and ask if there's any questions. Okay, Katie? On this one, when the street superintendent was asking me to clarify some crosswalks, we realized that after the Merrill and Carpenter project, we changed the crosswalks from the west and south side to the north, east, and across that turn lane so that the island is used again. And we didn't update it in our code. So this is to reflect those changes. I did double check with DOT, and those three crosswalks are approved by their guidance or whatever. So they're okay with those locations as well.
Okay. So I'll open the public hearing on this. Are there any comments? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Council?
Make the motion to move from the first to the second reading, the amendment to pedestrian crosswalks. Don't leave me on, I have a question.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded, but apparently there's still questions, so go ahead.
Not about the ordinance, though.
Okay. Oh, okay. So are any questions or comments on this ordinance? If not, please call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Can you comment on the crosswalks at Second and Broadway?
Can I go get my notes from the back?
Certainly.
Okay. I was going to do an update after my project update. You want me to go ahead and move this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So to your specific question regarding the crosswalks. So what we're waiting on is for the purchase of a new stencil in order for them to paint it. School crossings and high traffic crosswalks need to have some sort of cross hatching. And in the past, we had done a diagonal cross hatching. And the new street superintendent wants to go to a straight through cross hatching that uses less paint, but it also doesn't wear as bad because it lines up with your wheel tracks a little bit better. I was thinking that the stencil was going to be in late last week, but I didn't check with him this morning whether it came in.
But the intention is to get them repainted soon.
And as soon as the stencil comes in, Second and Broadway is high on the list. So while we're on it, also on that intersection, Dave did say that we didn't have any accidents in the first week there. We've had calls from citizens, and I know you guys have received emails. We do not have a comment box at the post office, and we may not be able to. The postmistress is still checking with HR regarding the ability to have one of those such item at the post office. It's against their policy. However, people are welcome to drop comments by in the utility drop box here at City Hall. And we'll take that into consideration, or, like one of them was the striping of the crosswalks. I did have a very positive conversation with the DOT regarding the pedestrians on that area. Currently, they do not have one of the yield to pedestrian center flags like we have on Burlington. They currently do not have any of those on a state highway. However, they actually would be willing to entertain the idea. They had some stipulations with it. So as we move forward with it, that's something that we can consider. They would also be willing to allow, they call it a rapid flashing beacon, but it's a push button activated pedestrian crosswalk signal. Again, people still have to obey the traffic signal in order for them to work, The DOT does have concerns about those near schools because kids feel like they could push the button and go. You still have to wait for traffic to stop, but they wouldn't have a problem with it at this area. So one of my thoughts was if we turn them back on after the 2-month or 10-week period, that we would leave them on. They're not at the very end of their useful life, that we keep them up and apply for grant money for that rapid flashing beacon. We're probably talking $30,000. And we just look for grant money related to pedestrian improvements to that intersection. And that way then we can leave the lights up until we can do more pedestrian improvements. Again, no final decisions, but I just felt like I had a really positive conversation with the DOT. The DOT acknowledges that the post office is a lead generator. They see that as well, and they're willing to work with us at that specific location, so.
Great, thank you. Good update.
One more point.
Yeah. Yep, go ahead.
The TERP study, is that what it was called? TE? That recommended this?
Yep. TEEP.
Can we have a copy of that placed in the library or available up front so that citizens can come and read it?
Yep. It is on our city website, probably though on a council agenda link, so not very easy to find, but I can get a hard copy.
Can I clarify, this is just we're just testing this out, right? It's for a 10-week trial period, and so it's not just a permanent decommissioning, just so
Unless
the public
after
knows.
10 weeks, everyone just says, absolutely do not turn that back on. And then I would have a really hard time turning them back on, because I personally, I like it, but that was the intent going into it was a 10-week trial. Like I said, people are starting to get used to it. I will say I was a passenger on Sunday going through the intersection, and I grabbed my husband's shoulder because even though I'm very well aware of it, it was still a shock to have him go through the intersection. But as people start to get used to this in the next couple weeks, I will be out there observing a little bit more and the speed and the number of pedestrians and stuff like that. But we want to get people back into a routine, get rid of the new before we start making some more of the observations.
I have another question then.
Okay.
Because I remember what it was now.
Okay.
So someone emailed me and I responded, and then they came back with another question. So to wrap up all these questions, is it fair to say the engineer looked at every possible variable that would regard to safety in that intersection before making this recommendation, including pedestrian, bike traffic, aside from car traffic?
I can't answer that.
Would it be in that report, though?
What they looked at would be in the report.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that they did. I can't imagine they didn't, but
Yeah.
I thought you might know.
No, not off the top of my head. And, this was mentioned on the radio spotlight. The main factor in removing these is the warrants, which is the scoring criteria that the FHWA uses to determine whether a traffic signal is used. And what we all may see as a traffic issue might not be a traffic issue by FHWA standards. And I know that's not, it might not seem fair, but because it's a state highway, those are the rules we have to follow. And there are some things we can do, like the rapid flashing beacon, which is allowed regardless of the volume of traffic. But traffic lights are just something that are not allowed when the volume's not there. So even if they hadn't considered every factor, not every factor comes into play in the final decision, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, and I just say recognize that there's those, other intersections, particularly on 2nd Street, that don't have lights and traffic is going by. So pedestrians, please be careful and be looking.
Look both ways.
Look both ways before you cross. Do what your mama taught you.
Your cell phone's down like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't be
drivers
looking
be
down and crossing
too.
the street with your head in your cell phone.
Drivers.
Okay. Under the mayor's report, I want to appoint the Housing Task Force appointments. This is 10 people. We are waiting on confirmation of one last person, but I would like to appoint 9 of them. You will see that this is predominantly male gender. We tried our hardest to equalize it, and what happened is we had the women, besides one of them, all came back to us and said, I either can't do it right now, or they wanted somebody else within their organization to be on the force, on this task force for a particular reason. So, that said, hopefully we'll have some female observers there as well. But as it stands right now, this is who I'd like to appoint. Paul Gandy is part of our Economic Development Committee, and he would be our elected official who would serve as chair. Aaron, our city administrator. Kristen Miller, who's a realtor. Aaron Kness, president of Iowa State Bank. Don Holting, who is a local landlord and has done done several renovations of older homes. Josh Larrabee from Economic Development, FIDA, would serve as co-chair. Brian Hunger from JCHC. Chad Christensen from Manufacturing, and Tim Bauer representing Education. And so if that's acceptable, I would take a motion to approve those appointments.
So moved.
Moved by Toohill.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. Any other discussion? No, please call the roll.
Toohill?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Gandy?
Can I vote?
Pardon me?
Yes. Yes.
Esty?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes?
Anderson?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And we look forward to that happening and really trying to work on this in the next year. So, city attorney report. John, do you have anything tonight?
Not tonight.
Okay, great. Thank you, John. Committee and board reports, environmental and franchise utilities.
Yes, Mayor, we met on Saturday with our new sustainability coordinator and members of the Sierra Club, and we discussed, I guess it had already come to council before, their request for $8,000 from City Council for 2 AmeriCorps volunteers. So what would happen would be we would commit to the $8,000, and I believe the funds would be, or would be, the remaining funds for the 2 volunteers would be paid from UNI. Yes, and we would have 2 volunteers for 11 months and then 2 volunteers for the summer from May to August. And it was the committee's recommendation to council that we fund the $8,000 for the first year to be paid out of lost funds. So then our idea was that we could implement this Resilient Iowa Communities project that we are a pilot community with through the UNI, and also our strategic plan. Because we were hoping that the volunteers would help us implement some of these goals that we have in our strategic plan, or at least help us address some of them. It was something that we discussed on Saturday. I don't know if there's anything else, Doug or Judy, that you wanted to add.
Part of the 2-year plan, 2-year items that we evaluated earlier this year when we did the survey all together with the department heads. That is also, these goals are addressing those things too.
Strategic plan.
Yep.
Yes.
A strategic plan.
But specifically those things that we pointed out.
Yeah.
So technically, the volunteers would be employees of UNI, but I and perhaps other members of the environmental and the franchise utilities committee could work with our sustainability coordinator to help craft the job description and come up with specific tasks that we could assign the volunteers when they get on board. So one thing that we talked about doing was perhaps having the volunteers help with energy audits for low-income households. That was something that we considered. Of course, housing was big on our strategic plan. So maybe there are some opportunities there that we could utilize the volunteers to help with some of those other issues.
Again, when would they start? The volunteers?
They would start at the end of September.
Holy shit, okay.
Yeah, so that's why it's on our agenda this evening, or it's something that we wanted to discuss, is because they would need those funds committed by the city by the end of August, so that they could apply.
Right, we might add that MIU is going to provide office space and office support to the 2 AmeriCorps members if we were to approve this request. And any action that the members are engaged in will be approved by council prior to execution of that project.
Do we have an idea what the pool of potential?
You and I will do an initial screening, and just, by the way, they also get $18,000 living allowance, child care support, loan forgivable for education, health care benefits as well. But just so you understand, over 500,000 people will apply for 80,000 positions. So these are highly desirable. We can here identify people locally who might be interested that we can suggest to you and I to be interviewed. But they make the call for the first cut, and they have criteria that they will use to evaluate people and applicants.
And then again, additionally, there will be 2 summer volunteers that would be working from May to August, so.
In addition to these 2
In addition to the 2, right?
And it depends on their skill sets that you and I is helping match the type of skill sets that we need to be meeting our goals.
And that's why we would be involved in the job description as well, in order to get the correct volunteers. And then there's a total of 3 years potentially, so we could renew every single year if this was something that worked for the city and we wanted to continue with.
At the same dollar amount, or approximately the same dollar amount? At the same dollar amount, or approximately the same dollar amount?
Looks like it. They haven't said anything else other than that. But we'll find out next year.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the $8,000 allotment from lost funds?
I make the motion to allot $8,000 to hire 2 AmeriCorps members from the lost account.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Gandy. Any other discussion? Now please call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Anything else, Elizabeth? No, that's it, okay. Public safety and transportation?
Public Safety and Transportation met this evening at 6 p.m. prior to council. We had 2 items on our agenda. The first item that was brought to the committee was a request to put out an RFP to look for a, what's the word? Consultant to evaluate Fairfield's Police Department and make recommendations how to make us more competitive, attractive, make us the best that we can be. We're simply looking to put out the RFP, the estimate that was given to us that we can expect to pay for this type of study was $6,000 to $10,000, right? So we'll just have to see where the bids come in, but we're seeking approval from council this evening to give Aaron permission to go ahead and put out the RFP for a Fairfield Police Department organizational study.
Would that, okay, it's been suggested in the past that the county have a single police department that is not a separate sheriff department and Fairfield Police Department, but a single force. Would that possibility be examined in this?
No, that wouldn't be one of the things we were asking, no.
Should we?
I would not recommend doing that. There's a number of reasons why you wouldn't want to do that. Partially, the council would give up its opportunity to control and direct our own police department in the efforts that it wants.
Assuming that it would be under county control.
Correct. So, which it would almost have to be since you have an elected sheriff. So, So I would recommend that. I would recommend, the really main reason why I'm recommending doing this is because as we're having personnel issues, it's more of a let's try and leave every stone unturned to try and find out what best practices we can implement and do. It's not saying that our police department's doing anything wrong, but is there something that we can do better and perform, and then to make us a better or more attractive department to all of the young people out there that are considering law enforcement.
Do we know how our turnover rates compare to other towns our size?
I do not. I do know that
hopefully an expert like this could tell us that.
Could. The other part of that is I do know that everybody's having a hard time hiring people.
I'm not surprised, given the environment that we're in.
Correct.
And I'm just going to say this is a very reasonable amount. Aaron and I have been talking for a couple of months that we need to do something different and think outside the box. And, I did a little Google search a couple weekends ago to see if there were headhunters for police officers. I did come across a company that kind of does research, branding, marketing, whole website, Google Ads, et cetera, et cetera. For that whole package, that's $175,000. So it's a big ticket, and so we've been brainstorming how to do this with talent that we have in Fairfield, which I think we have figured out who that is, who could help us with different parts of this, but this would be our first step.
To put out the RFP.
Yeah.
So.
Do you need a motion?
Yep, so I would make a motion that we present the RFP and proceed with publishing it.
I second it.
Okay. Been moved and seconded to move forward with this RFP. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that was passed. That was okay to do that, right? Not do a voice vote? Okay.
The second item on our agenda is a little more complicated, and so Melanie, be ready. But, so the Highway 1 construction project, the roundabout on the south edge of town, the Highway 1 construction project, is currently over budget by $2 million, just because of the times we're in, cost of goods. So the city staff has put together some ideas on how to bring that $2 million overage to a little more attainable number. And so if you sit and kind of do some math here, they're looking at taking 1 to 1.4 million from the TIF district down there as a funding source. It's available. It can help offset that $2 million overage. So if you get the 1.4, we're still looking at about a $750,000 shortage. Of course, the easy answer, but the answer with the most repercussions probably would be to bond that $750,000. That would have a negative, it would up our debt service levy. And we're trying really hard not to do that. We've had so many great years in a row of not doing that. We really don't want to bond, or we really don't want to recommend bonding. So some of the other options for us is currently, as the project is proposed, we were not going to close down both lanes of traffic. If we could close down both lanes of traffic and reroute, one, we expedite the project because we're not building gravel ways and we're not constantly trying to keep one lane open. It's just shut it down, do the work, move on. And it would be in sections. It wouldn't just be the whole thing. It would be, from this block to that block and then again. If we were to close down, in temporary paving alone, there'd be a savings of over $300,000. So the temporary paving to reroute the traffic, to keep one lane open, $300,000, that is our very real cost. We don't know the cost savings of expediting and moving through things faster and getting the project done faster, savings on the engineering costs, savings on the contractor costs. Another thing that was presented to public safety tonight was this project originally had sidewalks on both sides of Highway 1. We have to maintain the one side because it's part of the trail system and we lose funding with that. So the proposal would be to remove from the project the sidewalk on the west side with a cost savings of approximately $75,000. There's $100,000 that's already been taken into consideration in using funds from the flanking intakes that's available. So we've already kind of played from that pool. We've taken from the TIF district, and we're just trying to find other ways. So the Public Safety and Transportation Committee, after much discussion and throwing out lots of different ideas, would like to officially recommend to council that we move forward with closing down traffic both directions in sections to expedite the time and to save money on the Highway 1 project, as well as not doing the sidewalk on the west side of the street at this time. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, if we were to close down traffic on both sides, one of the big concerns is ambulance traffic to the hospital. So currently, some examples throughout town, Fairfield Country Club is currently 2 miles to the hospital if you take Highway 1. If we were to close down Highway 1 and they were to have to take alternate routes, the quickest route through town is 3.5 miles, approximately 30 seconds additional travel time with lights and sirens, or 6 miles if you take the bypass. And again, can travel even faster out there on the bypass. To the Fairfield High School, currently ambulance travels high school to JCHC down Highway 1, 2.1 miles. Alternate routes through town, 3.6 miles, so you're adding 1.5 miles, or 5.3 if they get out to the bypass and come around to the south exit. The rec center up at MIU, current distance on Highway 1, 2.8 miles. Alternate route through town, 4.1, 7 miles if you go out to the bypass. Just to pick a spot out on West Stone, just to give us kind of a far-reaching. Currently on Highway 1, you travel 3.2 miles. It would go 5 miles through town, alternate routes, 6.9 on the bypass. Arnold's out on West Burlington, out in that area of town, traveling down Highway 1, which we don't even know if they'd really travel down Highway 1. They may opt to go out Suburban Heights anyway. But if they went to Highway 1, it would be 2.5. It's only 2.9 if they run out to Suburban Heights and come down Libertyville Road. 6.5 if they went out to the bypass and came around. And then the assisted living, Addington Place, out on the west side of town, it's actually shorter if they take Suburban Heights out to Libertyville Road. And then, what is 605 West Broadway?
That's the
Broadway building.
The Broadway building?
Broadway building, isn't it?
That's 607.
Okay, so that part of town.
It's a building next to the Broadway building.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's Taco John's, maybe? That's
Burlington.
No, that'd be Burlington.
Yeah, so anyway, it's one of the points that they traveled. Currently 2 miles down Highway 1, 2.7 alternate routes in town are 6.5. Generally speaking, it would only add transport from anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute to take an alternate route during the time in which the two-way traffic is shut down.
And all of them are less than twice as long. 1.5 to.
Yeah, except for Addington Place.
1.5 times long.
It's actually shorter.
And some of them are shorter, right?
Yeah, some of them are actually
How
shorter
long-
if they go out to Suburban
How long will
Heights.
they be closed?
That's a Melanie question.
So with the closure, we would be looking at a majority of the construction season. So I'm saying 6 months. Without the closure, I would say construction would last the construction season and beyond. So we're looking at like a long 9 months. I mean, they're going to take every ounce of the construction season as they can if we didn't close it down. So
The other thing we did discuss is that anybody living or operating a business in there would still have at least graveled access to their residence or business. So
How are you accessing the TIF? That section's not part of the TIF, is it?
So the roadway itself isn't getting paid for by the TIF. It would be the roundabout, and then particularly the extension of Libertyville Road. That's one of the things that got added to the project that has increased the cost.
We need to rewrite the TIF to include that.
The roundabout's already in there. I think we need to add Libertyville Road, but the roundabout is already in there.
Just a financial clarification. The funding is, or the dollars are there. We would still actually bond it because we don't have the cash there to just spend. We'd still borrow it, but we'd be paying that bond through the TIF rather than using just debt service.
Which would just lengthen the time of the TIF.
Yes.
No, it wouldn't.
No, because we've already written, the 1 to 1.4 is already in the TIF.
It's just a project that we'd add to the area. It wouldn't lengthen the time frame of the TIF itself.
We're underutilizing that TIF district, basically.
I see.
When you say closing down both lanes, when they're doing the roundabout itself, will that shut down Libertyville Road?
No, there will always be a lane or turn lane to use Libertyville Road.
Okay.
Thank you. And also with Fillmore, that there will always be one lane, or most of the project, there'll be 2 lanes of Fillmore open.
And you anticipate this starting when?
With this decision, they'll be able to turn in the plans and we'll bid the project in January. We're still working with utilities on getting some stuff relocated. They could start as early as March. I'm not as hopeful as our design engineers, and I'm saying May.
So next spring, summer, and fall, maybe?
Yep, it's next construction season, yep.
2 questions I have, Melanie. Did Care Ambulance find, and maybe you don't know, an alternate?
I did not check.
On this side?
I did not check with them on that.
Okay, hopefully they will.
I don't think they'll need it.
And if we don't put the sidewalk on the west side, does that mean some of the fencing that's up and all, does some of that can stay? So that we have less cost on, on the west side, or no?
Well, we've already paid the property owners for removal of that fence, so it wouldn't save anything on that.
Okay.
And the other thing that we'll be doing, a positive of not doing it now, is we'll still be grading everything out because we need the surface to drain towards the street because it'll be curb and gutter now. So that sidewalk area will be graded as if the sidewalk was going to be built, which would make it very easy to come back in, either do it in-house or as a separate project.
Bids come in low, we could do it.
What?
If some bids come in low,
If the bids come in low, we can add it. Because of like the federal funding and everything, I would probably still do it later because we could do it cheaper ourselves later on.
Okay, yeah, great, thanks.
So I would like to make a motion to go ahead and proceed with bidding 2-lane closure for the duration of the project and removing the west side sidewalk from the project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to go to a 2-lane closure and remove the west side of the sidewalk. Any other discussion or questions?
I guess I just have one question that's probably really easy to answer. So we're $2 million over, not because of expected costs and budget, but because of what we're expecting the cost to be based on the roundabout. So, excuse me, not budget, but bids. We haven't received any bids.
We have not received bids.
Okay.
Yes, it's based off of current prices. I do believe that a construction costs, or at least what I've been hearing, is that they're starting to level off. So that makes us hopeful. Two reasons for the increase is just general increase in goods, but there was some increase in pipe sizes that were needed, and there was the pavement thickness from the original design to now increased by 1 inch. Not a lot, but over that whole stretch, it adds up. And then the addition of Libertyville Road extension.
I do have one question for John, too. We won't face any liability issues or anything by doing this, will we, with the ambulance service extended?
No, that's why we're doing the studies now. This is good information. I mean, if we were taking some risks and we were going to expose people to 10-minute delays or something like that, right, I would say we probably need to study harder, but that's not what we're finding in the study, so.
Okay.
And we will, We will have meetings with emergency personnel throughout construction as we move through different closures so that they know in advance of when we're getting to another stage, emergency personnel and the schools, so that they can adjust their routes and their bus routes, and that they can know ahead of time so their drivers know, okay, this week we're going to go down Key Boulevard versus somewhere else. And then also as we're talking with them on what routes we think they'll use, we'll make sure we'll have the streets department look at those in the spring, fill as many potholes as we can in some of those residential neighborhoods. They are residential neighborhoods, they're not a highway, and we'll fix up what we can to make it as best as we can under the situation.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that's passed unanimously.
That's all we have for public safety.
Great, thank you. So there are 3 action items, kind of less from the last 2 meetings to go through here quick. Water and Sewer Utilities Committee.
Plus, we had a committee meeting today, too.
Oh, okay, yeah, and a committee meeting. So, go ahead.
Water and sewer. I think we talked about these already. The 3 that we want to, 3 action items. The first one was a reimbursement request at 505 West Washington. A gentleman had converted a multiplex into a single family unit, wanted to keep one of the extra meters that was currently on the multiplex unit, and was going to use it for future use, and you are billed a rental fee every month for your meter. He didn't realize until a few years down the road that he had been billed for that meter, and he never hooked it up. He just kept it and didn't do anything with it. He wanted full reimbursement for all the rental fee that he'd paid while he had the meter, plus a couple $100 for his time to research that. We recommended that we do have a snowbird policy in effect where you can suspend your meter for 6 months and not pay the rental fee, and then after 6 months, you're automatically charged again, regardless if you're back or not. You're charged the rental fee. So we recommended that we go back to 3 years, and he would have been paying $8.75 a month. That we would give him. He said that we knew it wasn't hooked up, so we don't have record of that anywhere. But we recommended that we would give him a $52.50 credit, which would be 6 months at $8.75 a month, rather than the few hundred that he was requesting for the reimbursement.
Okay.
So.
You want to make the motion to approve that?
I would make a motion then to credit him $52.50 on his water bill.
Is there a second?
Second.
And this is just for the pump rental, nothing else?
This is just for, I'm sorry?
Just for the pump rental, nothing else?
Just for the meter, yes. And he does actually have it hooked up now. He does have it hooked up now, and he uses it for a garden or something, so he has since hooked it up, but, so he is paying rental on it now.
Okay.
This reminds me when John Loyne asked not to have to pay rental on signs or block that he borrowed but didn't use. We're sitting in his garage, but we went ahead and made him pay for it, so I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
You recall that?
Yeah, well, and we're making, we're requiring him to pay also. Even he had the meter for 3+ years and just kept it in his basement. So we didn't have access to it. We weren't using it. We would have used it somewhere else and charged somebody else for the rental fees. So it was costing us to have it sit in his basement. So.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to credit this gentleman $52.50. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, passed unanimously. Okay, next one is a connection to city water at 809 West Jackson.
And you guys probably remember this. Ms. Peterson came and talked to us about, she had the well and she had it redone. Was not aware that she was required to be hooked up to city water. She had an estimate of $7,500, I believe, to have the water run to her property. We talked to the water department. The water department said they could probably run it under the road. The main is on the other side of the road from her house. There's not one run to her property. The water department said they could probably do it for about $1,500 to run it to a stop box in her front yard. So if we went ahead and went with that project, then she would be required to hook up from her house to the stop box within 90 days from the point that the stop box is placed in there. So when that will happen, we don't know yet. Water department's a little busy right now. So, but if we do it that way, then that will save her an immense amount of money from having to hook up. It's really not her fault that water was not run to her property when that road was redone 17 years ago. It was run to every other property on that side of the street except hers for some reason. She didn't live there then, so we don't know why it wasn't run there. And she shouldn't probably really be obligated to pay to have it run under the road. It should have been done originally. So we recommend that we, as the city, run the water, bore under the road, run the water over to a stop box in her front yard, and then she'll be required to hook up to that stop box within 90 days at that point.
I move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Florner, second by Toohill. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say sign. Okay, that's approved.
The third one that we talked about was the fairgrounds. They had kind of an excessive water bill of a water that had run into the ground. They don't pay a sewer charge on that anyway, so there is no sewer request. But the water did run through, so they will pay for the water. The only thing that we thought would make it a little more feasible for them and good neighborly for us is that the fairgrounds are not within the city limits. They are on city water, but they're not within city limits, so they pay a higher rural rate. So we were going to offer them the opportunity to pay city water rates, since they're on city water, with the condition that future annexation of that property would be on the table.
Is this refund at the city rate or the county rate?
Refund? What's the difference between the two?
Rural water was much more expensive.
Yes.
So that's what this is?
Right.
Okay.
How much difference is there?
They would receive a credit of $3,368.33.
That's the difference?
So that's the difference, I think, between what they would pay under the rural rate and the city
I
rate.
don't have my notes from that. Is that right?
Over what period of time?
Or was
That would have
the
been,
total?
the amount they were getting reduced. I don't remember what the actual difference in rate is.
It was quite,
It's about
quite a bit.
Melanie just said it's twice as expensive to get
Right.
beyond the rural costs as
Right.
it is for the
City. That
the
was the
city,
reason
right.
we thought it was an improvement if they accepted the city rate rather than,
This is a one-time?
This would be a one-time reduction, but we would move them then to city rates with the permanently with the, since they're on city water now anyway, with the condition that annexation of that property
Into city water.
into city limits.
What does that mean? Is on the table.
That they would be open to
rejecting it, right?
Well,
I mean,
if they reject, then they go back to rural water rates. I mean, we would pull the city water rates off the.
So it's not I don't understand what we're getting out of the deal because we're going to give up money, but what are we gaining?
It cost us more to supply rural water to well, normally because of the lines and everything that are run for distance and all that. They are on, I mean, there's city water all around them basically right now.
They're an island.
So they're paying a higher rate because they're on an island that's not within the city limits.
I understand that, but.
So we're offering them to pay the same rate as all their neighbors are paying right now. But we also want consideration on their part to be annexed into the city.
Okay, what's the advantage to the city for annexing that property?
Gets rid of one of our islands. So when we start doing extraterritorial zoning.
We don't get tax benefit from it?
No, but when we start doing extraterritorial zoning, that takes an island, because that's, the islands are really going to mess up the other part. So we want to do away with the islands when we
The offer is to reduce their rate in exchange for them to consider being annexed. Is that correct?
No, the county would need to voluntarily annex at the time that we annex, when they are completely an island, because right now it's like 3 sides, right?
Correct.
That was my understanding.
Correct.
So that at the point, if that comes in the future where they are completely an island unto themselves, they would need to voluntarily annex.
What if there doesn't come that point?
Then they would go back to a rural water rate,
So how
because they
long?
wouldn't be within the city.
So how long will this reduction be?
I mean, in perpetuity is what we were thinking, right? I mean, like, and it's a neighborly thing is what we were thinking also.
I'm going to make a motion now to do the one-time reduction for the current bill from rural to city water rates, but not a perpetuity reduction in exchange for a possible annexation in the future.
Well, when annexation is discussed, if they decline, then they would go back to the rural rate, is what we were saying.
That's part of the deal is that they'd have to
I'm going to
voluntarily.
say give them the one-time reduction now, and then put on the table, hey, if you guys annex in, we'll change your water rates, but until then, we're not going to do anything.
Well, we primarily were doing this because of the excessive bill
That's the first half.
that they had, and we felt that this was kind of,
Yeah, I
you know,
understand
a
that.
gentleman's
We just kind of
agreement.
felt that if we made the first step of a peace offering, it would make the annexation.
That would be reducing now.
Rather than.
But if you give them the second part of it, we're giving the whole ship away.
We what?
We're giving everything away if we give them the second part as well.
Right. That's what I see. I mean, the idea is you're giving them a reduction in rate with the possibility of annexation at some point undetermined in the future, which could be never.
Why would they not want to annex in?
Am I missing something? It said perpetuity. Which would be never.
It wouldn't be perpetuity. When annexation is on the
not at
table,
all.
when annexation is brought up.
When would
if
that
they-
happen?
As soon as we can.
How soon could that be?
How soon can that be?
How long could it be? Let me answer that question. How long could it be?
That's a John
Friendly to
question.
Come into the
Well,
city.
let's do this. Can we do the one motion? I would make a motion to reduce their immediate billing now
To city
to
rate.
the city rate as
Okay.
opposed to the
Right.
rural rate. That's my motion, limited motion,
Say that again, Doug?
to reduce their current billing from the rural rate to the city rate for the water bill that there was now.
Because there was what happened there? There was
They had a leak they didn't know
a
about.
leak because of the leak.
But you're
So that's
not
a
giving
refund.
them this refund?
No.
No.
You're just saying a refund.
But he's not giving them the
Not
city rates
changing the
after
rate.
the reduction.
Just for this billing.
Well,
The
that's
refund-
what I heard him say the first time, and then I.
The refund would be equal to what the city rate would be.
So-
minus subtracted from what the city rate would be compared to the rural rate. That's the refund one time.
So his
the current-
motion is to
Yeah.
do this refund of $3,368.33, but they would stay on rural rate water.
Well,
Second.
That,
No.
yeah, we don't need the
that's
second.
what his motion is. That's what his motion is.
Is just, I thought you wanted to do the rural water rate as a separate motion.
That's what I am doing.
Okay. So it's
the
just.
current bill-
It's just the refund.
It's just the refund.
36.
The refund.
Motion's all that.
336833.
Okay, so the motion is just to give them the $3368.33 period.
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
And there's a second. Okay. Any other discussion on that? Nothing good happens after 9, I tell you. It's 10 after 9.
Straightforward.
Okay. All in favor of just refunding this $3,368.33, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so that was unanimously passed to give them the refund.
I don't think we need a second motion because if they decide to annex into the city, they would automatically get the city water rate. So why do we need to do any other action?
It was an olive branch. It's a piece, it's a neighborly gesture to
Actually,
get them.
that offer's
to
always been
consider it.
there.
So, it's
That
what?
offer's always been there. We just didn't ever enunciate it. They could annex in anytime they wanted and get city rates.
That's true. That's true. The offer's already there.
50 years they could have done it.
So the olive branch was that we were going to just move them to city rates. That was the olive branch, but that's fine if
Right.
that's not the olive branch we want to send.
Okay.
No olive branch.
We had two other water.
Yeah, we're not.
We do have two other ones.
Right.
So,
We did three.
No, from tonight's meeting.
Yep, so from tonight's meeting, we got a couple more, so go ahead.
The other two are going to be
You're on
quick.
a roll.
All right.
Keep going.
Do we?
Got it.
Okay. All right. The next one was at 2002 Silver Lake. A gentleman had a swimming pool that he drained into a pond, and he's asking for a reduction in his sewer bill. He asked for a $417.74 reduction, which is the difference in the average of the last 3 months. We take a difference in the average of 12 months, so the reduction would actually be $392.28. The water did not go down the sewer, it went into a pond, so we make the recommendation that we reduce his sewer charge by $392.28.
Move that we approve that sewer reduction charge.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, moved and seconded.
Wait.
I have a question.
Yeah, so do I.
Sure, go.
Questions? Comments?
So the pool was drained into a pond?
Yes.
Was it the person's pond, their pond property?
He talked to somebody from the city that gave him direction on how to do it, is how I understood it. Hang on a second.
Melanie has a comment.
The city employee.
Wait.
The city employee confirmed this, right?
I have let me have my question answered, please, because I have a second follow-up question.
Okay.
Melanie's there to help you, Tom.
Go ahead, Melanie.
So I'm not sure, I don't remember which employee, but I believe it was someone with the water department, because then they came and talked with me, and we said if it's properly dechlorinated, or like if you would leave the pool, like take out your filter and your pump and all your chlorine for like 2 weeks and then dump it, it would be safe to dump.
Is that what happened?
I have no idea on that much, but I
It's
do
a
know.
saltwater pool. I don't know if that makes a difference.
There was no fish.
It's a saltwater pool?
Yeah.
That would be our clue.
Yeah, I mean, there was still,
Right.
if there, and that's what we did tell them as well, is that regardless of what we tell you, if there's any like damage to the environment, that, you're liable, but this is what we would recommend.
That's my question. Yeah, that's my question. Was it contaminated water in some way?
Well, if it was chlorinated, it was.
Well, that's the question, yeah. If it was, and we're draining into a pond.
Might be considered contaminated.
If it was, and it's draining into a pond, why are we doing him a favor?
Yeah, we don't.
Well, they filled the water. They filled the pool with our water.
With city water.
Yeah,
And then what? Is it chlorinated? Do we know?
It's salt
Our water's not
It's a
chlorinated.
saltwater pool. We're just reducing the sewer portion.
Right.
That he got billed.
When you put water in the pool.
He got billed for when he refilled.
This
the
is the
pool.
same problem people run into when they water their grass. They get billed for sewer because we cannot determine how much water they spent on their grass but didn't go down the drain.
Well, and then my question
So
was
that's why
gonna
people
be-
have 2 meters.
My question was going to be, are we going to forgive sewer on every resident in Fairfield that filled a pool this spring?
Now,
That drains it into a yard or...
the policy is each house gets one chance at that. So.
One reduction request.
It's a reduction request. So if somebody were to do that.
One per year or one for the lifetime?
One ever.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't, and we've talked to this property owner about having an extra meter or an irrigation meter for that, but he doesn't normally empty the pool. He had to empty the pool this time because he had to put a new liner in it. So it shouldn't happen again. And since he's had his one reduction, our policy is that we don't do it again. And in this case, because we've offered him the irrigation meter and all those things, I would say then no, we wouldn't do it in the future. But this time, okay.
Is that per owner or per house?
House.
So.
Normally. Well, it'd be the.
So my question is, I mean, if he sells that house and a new owner comes in and does the same thing.
We wouldn't be keeping track of it by address. It'd be by account number or account member, I guess.
That's what I wondered.
We keep track in our computer.
So we instructed the person how to dump the pool, but we didn't check to make sure it was clean water when they dumped it.
I don't know that.
Is that a separate issue? The possibility of a contaminated pond is a separate issue?
We would know that by now because you would have wildlife kill.
Not necessarily, but okay.
And we would. How would we know that? Somebody tell us.
You don't know that. You might have killed somebody we know. But it still could be considered hazardous waste or. But it's beyond. That's a moot point at this point.
It's a separate.
But I mean,
it's separate.
Every other pool that's drained in town is drained into our water supply, into the water system somewhere.
Yeah, but that's going into a system, not into.
No, it's going into
natural.
it's going into a storm drain.
Stream or something.
Nobody drains it into their. Nobody has a drain on their pool that goes into the sewer system.
What about above ground pools too?
Same thing.
Yeah. Or just into their yard? Or...
I say a lot of them just drain it into their yard.
Which
probably. But this is
It's absorbed.
Will run out.
The point here, this is a one-off for them emptying their pool.
Yes.
Favor that we do for everybody.
Yes.
And we don't know what kind of water was emptied out of the pool.
Salt
we just know
water.
that it was emptied.
So.
And we told them how to do it or where to do it, Melanie?
Yes, we told them how to do it, or gave them.
We told them if they were going to do it, here's what our recommendation is for dechlorinating or chemicalizing their pool water.
Yes, that's the word.
Yeah, I don't know what the word is.
My understanding too is that someone did come afterwards when he submitted this request and looked at everything.
So I would make the motion to go ahead and forgive this.
We already have a motion on the floor to refund $392.28.
In a second.
And a second. No other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
I just have to abstain from this.
Okay.
My dad.
Thank you for explaining why you're abstaining.
Yeah.
Conflict of interest. All right.
That's why I know it's saltwater, and that's why I know somebody came out there and looked at it, so.
Okay, you have another issue?
We have one more. This will be a long one. I'm just kidding. The American had a water bill excessively high. The difference between their average bill and that one was $4,273.11 in sewer charges alone. They were asking for a reduction. They did some research, found out that the water did go down the drain. They had a disgruntled employee, according to them, that had turned a quarter turn on in their pool, so it was constantly filling and constantly draining, and they did not find that. So they do admit that the water was running into their pool and the water was running down a drain. So we felt there was no need to give them a reduction in their sewer fees. It's an unfortunate situation, but we had to treat the water, and it went through the sewer system. So our recommendation was to not give a reduction on their bill.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Do we need to vote?
No.
No, there's no reduction. Okay. Good.
I'll sign it, send it off.
Administrator and department reports.
The only thing I have is our audit started today, and they will be here for 3 days, and I have confidence in this company that it'll be here before June 30th, like this last year.
Great. Thanks. Melanie.
Say, didn't we have her?
Any questions on any of the projects? Okay.
I was gonna say, we had most of her project updates. And then we're gonna have Weston give a short update on.
Yeah.
We have an update on 802.5 North A Street. Since there's been a lot of questions about it. It's the house that they built around the trailer house. We currently have negotiations going on between the homeowner, their attorney, and our city attorney. We're hopeful to find a situation that satisfies safety issues that we have with the house after the inspection of the property. There's also been a plan to bring the house into city code as far as setbacks, the distance, the width of the house, and so on, which would comply with the original denial with the Board of Adjustments. Any questions about it?
Great, thank you.
That's all I have.
All right. So the only thing we have left is adjourn. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
It moved. There's our second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your time in the late night.